And now James Mboleo joins me right here in the studio to talk about the intrigues, the judiciary versus the executive. And James, thanks for joining us this evening. The first question is, as a lawyer sitting at the bar, looking at the complaints of Chief Justice David Maraga, this is not the first time he's launching a scathing attack on the executive. This is the second time, essentially, in about a year.
Yes.
What goes through your mind? Is he justified to make these claims?
As a lawyer who is not just a practitioner in the courts, but a person who has followed the question regarding a dispute between the President and the Judicial Service Commission on appointment of judges, I would say as follows. First, that it's extremely unfortunate that the Chief Justice is not being entirely honest about the problem bedeviling the judiciary at the present moment. The representations he has made on several occasions with regard to backlog of cases and the inadequacy of judges in the judiciary is, to say the honest truth, misleading. Why? Because, let me tell you something. The Chief Justice ought to tell the public that, first and foremost, in 2016, by a Gazette notice done by himself, he designated all land and environment cases of a subject matter of below 20 million, which accounts for almost 90% of all the cases in the ELC courts to be had in magistrates' courts.
Okay.
Much later, he designated all matters in the Employment and Labor Relations Court of a subject matter of below a salary of 80,000 shillings, which accounts for almost, again, 90%
of the cases
in that court,
yeah,
to the magistrates' courts.
Okay.
Let me tell you the problem with the Judicial Service
Before
Commission.
you tell me
Yes,
the problem with the Judicial Service Commission and that, then why is the Chief Justice concerned, if at all this is handled already? Because what you're telling us, 90% is already handled. So why is he concerned about the 41 judges?
The Chief Justice has about 5 months in office. Okay? When you have gone through almost all the tenure that you have as Chief Justice and President of the Judiciary, and you look at your curriculum vitae or resume, and you find that it's extremely thin, then you start looking for people to blame when you're going to be asked what you did in the judiciary. Let me tell you something. Most of the judges, every time they go for interviews, including the Chief Justice, they never tell us that they are going to reduce the backlog in the judiciary by appointing more judges. They always tell us how they are going to innovatively create efficiencies within the judiciary to address the question of backlog until they get there. And you know what happens? Because when they get into the judiciary, then they realize quickly that that is a place where people go to be lazy.
The Chief Justice in Kenya currently holds the CV in Africa as one of the only Chief Justices to nullify an election. Why would he be worried about his CV at the end of the day?
That is probably one of the 2 or 3 lines that is going to be in that resume. Because
look
at this backlog. The Chief Justice ought to tell us, when did this backlog grow to where it is? It is not that this backlog has grown in the last 2 years or 3 years. No, it has grown over the years.
So it's not his problem, that's what you're telling us.
It's not just his problem.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, even the Chief Justice doesn't even understand the correct complement of judges that he requires for each of the courts he's talking about.
But if you want him to work as the President,
yes,
and an extension of the government, as the second arm of the government, why don't you just allow the Chief Justice to get the judges? What is the problem? I mean, they went through the Judicial Service Commission, right?
Let me tell you something.
This
is one of those matters that was in court. And you know, Ken, one of the biggest...
And the court ordered that President Uhuru Kenyatta appoints them immediately.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. You know, one of the biggest things you must understand about the workings of the judiciary in this country is that it is also the arbiter, even in questions in which the judiciary itself is a litigant. All right? So this is a matter of a monkey deciding a matter of the forest.
Tell me something. The procedure for appointment of judges.
Yes.
They go through the Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly. The Constitution at Article 172 gives a clear role, which is also supplemented by the Judicial Service Act, on how judges should be appointed.
Exactly.
But go and read Article 166 of the Constitution. It says in sub-Article 1 that the President shall appoint judges recommended in accordance with the Constitution by the Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly. So the Constitution gives him only the appointing role, not the vetting role.
But that's the problem, Ken.
It's not the problem, it's the
most of
Constitution.
the people read that article up to that point. You know, you see, you are not listening. Now, sub-article 2 of the Constitution, of Article 166, says who is to be appointed under that, and it gives recommendations of many people.
Exactly.
And some of us are of the school of thought,
yes,
that looking at that criteria and the fact that that criteria was not placed under Article 172, it has been placed under Article 166, which the president is supposed to use to appoint, then the president is not just a rubber stamp in the appointment of judges.
That is you're being an activist here.
No.
You're being an activist. If the president had concerns, the names are shortlisted, they're published, and then there are interviews that are conducted. Why didn't the concerns from Kinyua and the rest, why weren't they taken to the Judicial Service Commission? Why wait for the tail end to bring all these hurdles to the judiciary? And then complains the judiciary has done nothing.
This is how this system works. Almost more than 1,000 people apply for the position of judge. The president is not going to ask the NIS to give him a dossier on each of these people. The president has to wait until this number has reduced to...
That's not the procedure.
To a number...
This is the tail end, James, as we end the interview. This is the tail end.
Yes.
If there were concerns of integrity, if there were concerns about how these judges have been working, and remember, out of the 41, only about 2 are not practicing judges right now.
Yes.
Why weren't they presented before the Judicial Service Commission? Why now?
Now, the reason you're asking that question, Ken, is because you don't read the news. One of the issues we raised in the case about appointment of judges is that the Judicial Service Commission failed to do the background checks in accordance with the Judicial Service Act. What it did is it refused to establish the necessary mechanism of communication with the relevant NSIS authorities to have this checked out. Okay. And you see the result definitely is going to be that they did not do the job they wanted to do. So
what happens? I need to let you go. So what now happens?
What happens, I think, is that the president should continue ignoring those names that were unconstitutionally presented to him, and wait for a Chief Justice probably who is willing to do the job properly and appoint judges after a correct procedure is followed.